It's fascinating how few MPs are out and about discussing all of this. You're on the One Nation side of MPs who perhaps are unhappy with the Rwanda bill, as opposed to the about 60 various different groups who want to toughen the Rwanda bill up. Why are so few MPs willing to talk about it before the debate? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think a lot of MPs might be looking at how the debate goes before making up their mind. I understand that. I think it is the job of people like me and other legislators to actually probe and test and make sure that the bill is in as good enough order as possible before it goes to the House of Lords. And that's why I think amendments are a healthy way of doing that. I have a somewhat different view about the bill from perhaps some of my colleagues. I don't like to say the other side of the party because on many things I will agree with them. The Conservative Party is not an ideological party, and there will be many things
That's
that
part of the problem,
we
isn't
agree
it?
on.
I've always thought
Well,
that's part of the problem with you guys. You
no,
don't
I
believe
think
in
what
anything.
well, I don't agree with that. We've got, I've been a Tory all my life, Julie. I joined the party nearly 40 years ago. I believe in meaningful tradition. I believe in this country and in our values, and that includes the rule of law. And that's one of the things that has sustained me through my,
So,
long
so
time
your
in politics.
concern about this bill is about sort of the lack of routes of appeal for the people who would be sent on to Rwanda, and also about the safety of Rwanda, somewhere to send asylum seekers.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I think the treaty that was signed last year by James Cleverly and the Rwandan government was a big step forward. The Rwandans have committed to do a lot of things there to improve their systems. We've got to make sure that that happens. It seems to me that before we, in law, deem and judge Rwanda to be safe, we need to make sure that all that is done. And then I don't have a problem at all with then sending people to Rwanda. In fact, the principle of using a third country is not immoral. It's not unlawful. The Supreme Court itself said it wasn't unlawful.
And other
And other
countries
countries.
have done it.
Exactly. So Denmark's been trying to do it. Italy's done it with Albania. Austria looking at
So,
it.
so why
This
are
is
there so
not.
many? Why is the Tory party tearing itself apart on this? We've got the possibility, as I say, of two the Tory party chairs, Lee Anderson and Brandon Clark-Smith, actually, voting against the government on an amendment. Possibility, we don't know whether they vote against the final bill is another matter. We don't know how many MPs will actually do that on that side. But the party tearing itself apart on something which apparently most of you agree on in principle. And by the way, even if those Rwanda flights do take off, if they ever do, it's going to be a drop in the ocean in terms of the number of people who actually turn up here every single day. We have 140 at the weekend. I'd be surprised if we ever send 140 people to Rwanda. You're having a massive big fight over something which is really not going to make any difference to anything.
Well, look, I agree, Julia, that this is only a part of the response to the crisis and challenge of illegal migration. The small boats issue is something that is a reproach to us all. It's an example of exploitation. It's not just the UK, forgive me, not just the UK who is having to deal with this, but countries across Europe. And therefore, the Prime Minister was absolutely right to get a deal with Albania. That's made a big difference in numbers. Finding those other countries and doing bilateral deals seems to me to be really effective. So for me, this isn't an either or. Rwanda's an extra element, if you like, to this policy. And as far as I'm concerned, on the floor of the House of Commons, it will be a civilised debate between friends and colleagues. It's not going to be some sort of scrap. I think my colleagues who are seeking to strengthen the bill actually endanger weakening it because they will create more legal argument and more delay rather than focusing on the policy itself and whether or not we can get this done and get those planes in the air.
Do you think that any MP who votes against the government when it does kind of go to the third reading to explain, bills are initially, introduced, they go to committee stage, have these debates, final reading in the House of Commons, then it goes to the House of Lords, as you just mentioned. If at the point tomorrow night, when we get to the end of this debate, MPs on the Tory side vote against this measure, should they well, in the case of, say, Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark-Smith, should they lose their jobs as Deputy Chair? Should they lose the whip as Tory MPs? And will it be a crisis for Rishi Sunak's leadership to not be able to command control of the House of Commons as someone who's got a majority of, what, 50-odd?
Well, I think Rishi Sunak will probably win tomorrow night. I think most colleagues will want to support him and support the government, because we don't want to be cutting off our noses to spite our own faces here. We need to
Hold on a
come
minute,
together.
that's what the Tories do. That's literally what you've been doing the last couple of years. It's your
I
hobby.
haven't. I've tried to, as far as I'm concerned, Julia, I came into politics and government to actually get stuff done, and make change for people, and deal with this as in the way that I think the public would expect politicians to do so.
Here's the issue, though, isn't it? Most voters feel that politicians don't get stuff done. We see, like, the Horizon scandal, post office representatives, and I was, back in front of a business select committee today, and in front of the inquiry as well. Years and years of no one getting anything done other than a few really good MPs trying to do their best. When there is change, well, frankly, a lot of us aren't that keen on it. A big change, massive increase in migration, in net migration, when we were told there'd be a massive cut. NHS not working, trans ideology being, pumped into our children at schools. I mean, you don't get much done, but when you do, you get the wrong stuff done.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, look, I'm proud to be part of
Was anything I said wrong then?
Well, yeah, look, I think
I don't think it was. I think you probably agree with all of it, but it still happened under your watch.
Julia, I think on the post office, for example, that is a failure of the system for which we should all be ashamed. I think it is a moment of shame, and I think we've got to be honest and humble about it and actually acknowledge the failure, and that's why I think now moving quickly is important. But I don't think it's right to say that things have not been done. I think I see literacy and numeracy standards rising in schools. Brexit for a lot of people was an important issue that was done. We have, I think, now a position where the UK is again showing world leadership in Ukraine and in the Red Sea. I think there's a lot of positives that we've got to emphasise, whilst acknowledging that there's still many issues to be dealt with and things to get right. I think it's the job of politicians like me to be positive, to show some optimism and leadership about things, but also to tell hard truths. And where I think something isn't working, like aspects of this bill, I've got to be honest and get up there and make my own argument on the amendments that I've tabled today and tomorrow.
No doubt you will be speaking in the 6 hours debate. I really appreciate us joining today. Thank you very much.